Horace was the type of guy. Horace that probably didn't like Mike, because Mike got his way in all kind of ways. His security can travel, he can do this and that. Some guys can't handle that.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome once again to Bulls basketball.
Including what he really thought about the docuseries The Last Dance, which followed the Chicago Bulls dynasty in the 90s. Pippen says when he agreed to be filmed, he wasn't aware it would focus so heavily on Michael Jordan.
How many times did just you and Michael have dinner in Chicago? Chicago has a lot of great... Scottie, stop it. Scottie, stop it. You and Michael never had dinner together one-on-one?
How you the best when you wasn't even the best on your own team? How you the best when you weren't even the number one option?
6 championships with the Chicago Bulls. An era that not only redefined basketball, but changed the way we view sports dynasties. Yet beneath the victories, the parades, and the endless accolades, there's a shocking truth that has remained hidden for far too long. A truth that redefines everything we thought we knew about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. Charles Oakley, one of the toughest men to ever step onto an NBA court, a man who stood as Michael Jordan's bodyguard and protector for years, has just lifted the veil on a story that has been carefully hidden from the public eye for decades. A story that shatters the most celebrated partnership in basketball history. What destroyed the legendary duo of Jordan and Pippen wasn't a falling out. It wasn't a trade rumor, a financial dispute, or even jealousy. No, it was something much deeper, something that began festering within the walls of the Bulls locker room as early as 1987. And when Oakley, a man who saw it all firsthand, starts to speak the truth, you'll begin to understand how everything we thought we knew about these two basketball legends starts to unravel. Stay locked in, because Oakley's revelation changes the narrative of one of the greatest basketball stories ever told. Charles Oakley isn't your typical former player with a podcast. He's not in this for clicks or drama. Oakley was Michael Jordan's enforcer on the court, a man who had a front row seat to the most pivotal moments in basketball history. Before becoming a fixture with the New York Knicks, Oakley was in Chicago, standing next to Jordan through the pain of the early years, the defeats, and the eventual rise to glory. Yet he saw the dynamics within the locker room that made the Bulls a dynasty, and he watched the psychological toll the system took on the players around Jordan, especially Scottie Pippen. When Oakley speaks, it's not gossip. It's testimony from a man who was there, a man who saw the cracks before anyone else did. And what he's just revealed about Jordan and Pippen's relationship and the invisible war that raged within the Bulls locker room is perhaps the rawest insider account we've heard in decades. Even more revealing than Sam Smith's The Jordan Rules, which first exposed the tension between the two stars in 1992. This isn't about rumors or hearsay. This is about what really went down. Now let's face the uncomfortable truth that no one really wants to accept. Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were never close. They were never friends. They weren't a pair of basketball brothers united in their quest for greatness. They were co-workers, two men who happened to be incredibly good at their jobs, working in the same building at the same time. But their bond was not based on friendship, nor was it the type of partnership the public was led to believe. The system that made them champions, the preferential treatment that Jordan received, the marketing machine that turned him into a global icon, the spotlight that only shone on one man. It's this same system that quietly destroyed any possibility of a true human connection between Jordan and Pippen. The dynasty, as powerful and successful as it was built on imbalance. And that imbalance slowly and quietly broke both men in ways no one truly understood. Every piece of the story Oakley is about to tell proves this beyond a shadow of a doubt. Oakley remembers the exact moment when he knew Scottie Pippen wasn't just another teammate. He recalls Pippen, still young, not yet the star he would become, standing in the locker room beside Michael Jordan and boldly declaring that he would surpass Jordan one day. Now think about that for a moment. Scottie Pippen, before he'd earned his stripes, making a statement like that in front of Jordan, the fiercest competitor the league had ever seen. It wasn't just confidence, it was a declaration of war, and Oakley was there to witness it. That moment, that single statement, planted the seed of rivalry in what the public believed to be a partnership of mutual respect. It wasn't about just playing alongside Jordan for Pippen. He wanted to be recognized as his equal, and that desire, that hunger for recognition, would linger in Pippen's heart for the next 3 decades. Oakley didn't just allude to this tension, he laid it out clearly and bluntly. The Bulls weren't a team of equals pulling together in one direction. No, they were a kingdom, and Michael Jordan was the king. He had separate arrangements, separate rules, and even his own security detail. While Jordan lived like royalty, the rest of the team simply watched from the sidelines. Oakley even pointed out a specific casualty of this system: Horace Grant. Grant, who was an integral part of the Bulls' three-peat championships, a player who bled for the team and gave it his all every night, eventually couldn't stomach the inequality. He left Chicago, went to Orlando, and allegedly fed the Magic inside information about the Bulls' plays. That's how deep the resentment ran. It wasn't just about basketball for Horace, it was about dignity. It was about being treated like a partner, not an expendable pawn. And if Horace Grant, a man with 3 rings, felt this way, imagine what Scottie Pippen was carrying silently. The truth about Jordan and Pippen isn't just found in the highlights or the footage of them celebrating with trophies. No, you have to look at the raw, uncomfortable facts, like what Pippen himself said when asked the simplest of questions. When asked if he and Jordan ever shared a meal together during their time in Chicago, Pippen's response was chilling: never, not once. Over a decade of playing together in a city rich with steakhouses, jazz clubs, and late-night spots, these 2 men, who helped define an entire era of basketball, never once sat down across the table from each other. That's not a partnership, that's a business arrangement, and Scottie Pippen confirmed it without hesitation. No diplomatic spin, no softening of the truth. Just the cold, hard fact: they were never friends. The brotherhood that everyone talked about? It was just an illusion, a narrative crafted for the cameras. Behind the scenes, there was a distance, a permanent divide that could never be bridged. But Oakley went even deeper. He connected this personal rift to a much larger cultural issue. Jordan, as we all know, became the face of a global marketing empire. His face was everywhere, on sneakers, Gatorade bottles, billboards from Times Square to Tokyo. But what about the men who helped build that empire? Pippen, for one, he was locked into a 7-year, $18 million contract, a deal that was so team-friendly it became infamous. While Jordan was signing million-dollar deals with Nike, his sidekick was left in the shadows, underpaid and underappreciated. The franchise didn't fix it. Jordan didn't advocate for it. And Pippen? He swallowed his resentment every day, year after year, watching as his star power was eclipsed by Jordan's ever-growing legend. Some may argue that Pippen's grievances were driven by his own ego. But Stephen A. Smith took things even further, dismissing Pippen's complaints and pointing to his low moments, like the infamous 1994 migraine game against the Pistons and his refusal to go into the 1994 playoff game against the Knicks. But Oakley understood something that most people miss. Pippen's resentment wasn't about ego. It was about erasure. He didn't want to replace Jordan. He didn't want to be hailed as the greatest. He simply wanted acknowledgement. He wanted to be recognized for what he had done. Because without Scottie Pippen, there would have been no 6 championships, no dynasty, no legacy. And yet, despite all his contributions, Pippen's name was relegated to the background in the telling of their story. The Last Dance, the documentary that revitalized interest in the Bulls dynasty, was centered around Jordan, as it should have been, given his role in it. But Pippen's contributions, they were treated as secondary, and Pippen, he was fine with that for a time. But the bitterness, the resentment, never truly left. In his 2021 memoir, Unguarded, Pippen didn't pull any punches. He laid out the truth, his grievances, his frustrations, and in the reality of playing in Jordan's shadow for so many years. When asked about his last conversation with Jordan, Pippen didn't soften his words. He didn't leave any room for interpretation. It was final. It was done. And then Pippen dropped the bombshell. He said the one thing that had been on everyone's mind for years: Jordan and Pippen were never truly together. Their partnership, while undeniably successful, was never built on friendship. It was a professional arrangement that yielded 6 championships, 2 three-peats, in the most dominant decade in basketball history. But underneath all the championships, the celebrations, and the highlights, there were 2 men who never shared a meal together, who never called each other friends, and who operated within a system that elevated one and erased the other. When this is not a story of hatred, it's the story of what happens when greatness is built on inequality, and nobody ever stops to fix it. If you believe Pippen deserved more, hit that like button. If you think Jordan owed him nothing, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more untold stories from the heart of the dynasty, make sure to subscribe. We've only just begun to scratch the surface.